Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited to have you here today. What an important conversation. What an important time for this important conversation. When I was called a couple of weeks ago and asked if Pearl Cohn would be the host site, I was quick to say yes to this. We're in such an important part of the city, right here off of historic Jefferson Street, cradled in between TSU and Fisk University. We all know, I think, in this room how important our city is, and for me, who's been in this building for 5 years now, this is such an important topic for us and our students. So I'm excited about what today will be and all that we have. I'm very thankful to Mayor Berry, who has initiated this and really who continues to honor her promise to bring the community together for these important conversations. So thank you to her, and I'd like to introduce her now for her opening remarks. Mayor Megan Berry.
I'm sorry I'm going to have my back to some of you all. I'll try to swivel around and talk. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I also want to really thank Dr. Stewart for opening up today and having Pearl Cohn be this place where we can have this conversation. You know, Pearl Cohn's motto is together as one. And I think that's really appropriate today as we have our conversation. I'm really pleased that all of you took time out of your busy days to make this possible. Because, you know, you did not have to give up a Saturday to do this, but you did, and I'm grateful. In a minute, you're going to hear how this whole day is going to unfold, but before we do that, I just want to share some of my thoughts about this discussion and what I think the day will bring. But before I do that, I also want to just say thank you to Mark and Dee. They are the Pearl Cohn maintenance folks who really did all they could to make this possible. So I'm not sure where Mark and Dee are, but if you are here, will you just raise your hands? Well, they're out doing maintenance right now. So Nashville has a long history of being different than the rest of the country, and we see that again today. We have over 100 organizations in this room who, when the call went out today to say, can you be available, they immediately reached out and said, yes, I want to be part of this. Yes, I want to lend my voice to this. Yes, I want to add my organization's voice to this on this dialogue around race and social justice and equity. I've heard from lots of folks. I've heard good things about Nashville, and I've heard about the things that we need to improve upon. But I do know that our city is different. We aren't Baton Rouge or Falcon Heights or Dallas or Munich or Ferguson or Kansas City or Nice. But actions and reactions that happen somewhere else often reverberate here, and we would be foolish to ignore the larger conversation about how we strive to be a different place. So let me tell you why I think we're different. We're not perfect, but we are different. First, because when the call came out to have this conversation, you all stepped up. When the idea about engaging in this important dialogue started, my staff put their passion for service into overdrive, and they made this happen. Because when I floated this idea, our police chief, Chief Steve Anderson, and his excellent team said, we want to participate. Because when the call went out to find space, Dr. Stewart and her team made Pearl Cohn available. Because when we were figuring out how to have a complicated dialogue like this, Dr. Hildreth and Lipscomb University said, how can we help? Because when Nashvillians are asked to do something hard, we don't shy away. We engage, we participate, and we talk to each other. That's what today is all about. And I can also share with you some of the other reasons we're different, and it has a lot to do with our police department, the fine men and women who decide to devote their lives to service and to serve Nashville. We're different because our police receive bias and de-escalation training. We're different because our police department has partnered with the Metro Human Relations Commission to develop diversity training. And we are different because Chief Anderson and the police department do a great deal of work every day in the community to build our communities up. They have progressive policies and consistently work to protect all of our community, including protesters. But we always know we can be different and better, and that's why we're here. If you look around this room, you'll notice that this is a diverse group of people. And the diversity is not just about race and religion. There's a good reason for that. My office was very intentional about making sure we had organizations that represent the wide range of constituencies and agendas. These issues are not simple, they're not easy, and it's not just about race and law enforcement. This has always been about a larger conversation around equity and opportunity and what we have to do to work together. Greater equity and more opportunity for housing, transit, education, jobs, and our youth. These issues aren't new, and my office has been focused on all of this since we started back in September. But before we can make a lasting impact on these issues, we actually have to draw near to each other. And I'm reminded of the good story of the Samaritan. Many of us know that story. A man is attacked, he is hurting, and he needs help. He lays by the side of the road, and not one, but two people pass him by. And not only do they pass him by, they purposely move to the other side of the road to avoid him. When the Good Samaritan comes along, he helps the man. Before we can help each other, we must first draw near. But first we have to draw near so that we can know what the wounds are, so we can know what the salvo is that we need to help with the healing. And that's what today is all about, drawing near to each other so that we can know each other and know what is needed. Today's process, which you're going to hear about more of in a moment, is designed to produce a greater understanding of different perspectives. And I think it's also going to create greater trust and greater respect. Trust the process, and please participate. We have to have a robust dialogue so that we can eventually have ideas that will lead to solutions, because that's also where Nashville is different. We turn conflict into conversation, and then turn conversation into action. And all of that starts with you today and the conversations that are going to happen. So thank you once again for being here. You will notice that there is an open space at your table. So you will see me pop into that open space occasionally as I walk around, as I too will be here all day to participate with you. So thank you again. Thank you. Can I turn it back to you?
We are made in the likeness of God.
The likeness of God.
My face is your face.
My face is your face. But your face is a different race.
Your home is a different place than mine.
What if I take your place?
What if I take your place? Could we face the nation together? It should not.
In another time and place, perhaps it would not.
But nonetheless, it could not
matter
more.
Right now.
In the middle of its city.
It could not matter more.
I'm talking about your face.
Your place.
Your race.
So much has come between us.
Before we have even met.
The training kicks in.
The warning signs
warning.
Perhaps they're even stronger for you. Who knows?
No one knows. If we do not face each other,
look into each other's eyes, beyond the race,
beyond the face,
beyond the place you occupy.
You occupy. You and I must see God. Like it or not, this is our sacred ground.
Where your eyes are now my eyes, and what I see does not have words.
I am you, and you are me. How can it be that we
cannot see each other?
Can we replace the fear with love?
Can the past be left behind?
But not forgotten.
All our gains are not forgotten. Can I relinquish my position? Help us find a new tradition, from that which we know to that which will grow. in the not too distant.
Can I relinquish my position? Help us find a new transition from that which we know to that which will glow in the not too distant. Do we even care to do the work?
Lip service, self-service,
something got lost along the way.
too many words,
Too much talk, too much comfortable.
in the places we are,
Both of us.
all of us.
Stop simplifying and explore.
Because here it comes.
Like it or not, people are dying.
Children are crying.
If things are bad for the least of us, how can we sit by, not cry?
If we are all children of God.
For a moment,
For a moment, I saw my face.
in your face. But that moment has gone.
I recognize my voice.
How easy was that?
Too easy was that.
Too easy is that.
Until I see your face.
The face of God,
I am you.
and I am you.
Every time we see our face,
We meet our Maker.
every time.
My goodness. Good afternoon. I am Michelle Cummings Steele, Academic Director of the Nelson and Sue Andrews Institute for Civic Leadership in the College of Leadership and Public Service at Lipscomb University. On behalf of our President, Randolph Lowry, Dean Steve Joyner, and our faculty and staff of Conflict Management, Sustainable Practice, Law, Justice, and Society, and Public Policy, it is our honor and privilege to facilitate this very important and timely dialogue on behalf of Mayor Berry and the City of Nashville. The College of Leadership and Public Service aspires to help shape and practice a different approach to leadership and public service, built on a model of civil discourse, innovation, and bold action. We are teaching our students to ask the right questions, listen to understand, collaborate to serve, and use civil discourse to create bold action. Students in the Master's of Arts in Civic Leadership program ask the right question of Lionel Matthews, the Mayor's Director of the Office of Neighborhoods and Community Engagement. He and several members of the Metro Council joined our class for a discussion on participating in state and local politics as a civic leader a few weeks ago. That conversation was timely. Sandra Long Weaver, who was there participating in that conversation, asked the question, what is the mayor's response to all that is happening in this country? And how do we ensure that Nashville doesn't become Staten Island, New York, Ferguson, Missouri, Chicago, Illinois, Cleveland, Ohio, Charleston, North Carolina, Baltimore, Maryland, Prairie View, Texas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Falcon Heights, Minnesota, and Dallas, Texas? Lionel's response was thoughtful and communicated the heart of our leader. Mayor Berry wanted to have conversations in the community. She wanted to listen to her constituency and to learn from them. But how many of you know that this conversation could not happen in the same way that it's happened in other times before? In the Civic Leadership program at Lipscomb University, we teach our students that in order to affect change, you must get the right people around the table to identify what the need is. For this discussion, as has already been stated, 100 organizations were invited here today, representing people in this community. We recognize today that this is not the voice of the whole, but we needed a new way, a way that is disruptive to our usual thinking and a way of doing things. This discussion will be facilitated in an effort to allow people to speak about their views in a way that is authentic, informed, textured, and constructive. We need to allow each other to speak. We need to listen to each other and get to the heart of the matter so that we can start planning and doing, developing strategies for achieving equity in the days and months ahead. The work ahead of us today is difficult. It is emotional. It is unpredictable. In this room is a lot of pain, trauma, and frustration, but I am grateful that Mayor Berry is courageous and strong to have this conversation and to allow the College of Leadership and Public Service to facilitate the dialogue that I hope will be the beginning of a healing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Steele. My name is Phyllis Hildreth, Academic Director, Institute of Conflict Management. I teach conflict management. I do this in a classroom for a living. So you probably have just heard the end of the formal, buttoned up, very soaring and important eloquent speech, and now we're getting ready to do some work together. My task here for the next 15 minutes is to help you understand how we came to this place, what we have designed to do here together, what it will accomplish, what it won't accomplish, and maybe what we can do together when we leave here. I'm going to echo on a couple of things that I've heard already, and that is courage. It took an enormous amount of courage for each and every one of you to come in here today. Have no idea what's going to go on, probably got some strong feelings, one way or the other. So I thank you for your courage. I also want to emphasize what the timeline has been for this response. Michelle said that conversation happened a couple of weeks ago. It was exactly 2 weeks ago, yesterday. And if you will roll your clock back, 2 weeks ago yesterday, we were coming off of a week of mourning the horrific shootings in Louisiana, in Minnesota, and 2 weeks ago Friday, the day before the 5 shootings in Dallas. It was that next day in 24 hours when the question was asked, what can we do? It was the following Friday, a week ago, when we got the answer. So everything we're doing in here with each other today started with a blank piece of paper at 7 a.m. last Friday morning. That's not nearly, you should see how much time I like to take to prepare a class. That's not nearly enough time to do this well. There was not nearly enough time to invite you properly, to have you consider whether or how you wanted to participate. For you to suggest who else needed to be in this room. For everyone to do their due diligence as to what this was about and who is this was going to be keeping us in check. So many of us here right now are flying without a net, and I want to acknowledge that. And if we can hold that in trust with each other, then I think we might be able to get something done here. So at this point, Eric, can you help me out? I'm going to go briefly through the PowerPoint. We know that we have multiple learning styles. Some people need to hear it. Some people need to see it. So we do have a PowerPoint. This is not in your handouts. All preparation materials that the dialogue design team created will at least be available on the Lipscomb University website. We will get that information to you. It is my hope that the Metro team will also mirror that, and you will be able to receive it on the public website as well. So we begin. First slide, please. What is our purpose? Our purpose here today is to dialogue with representatives from the community organizations on criminal justice issues in the African American community. Now that's according to the mayor's press release of 7/14, about a week ago. So I'm not sure what was said on the invitation. I'm not sure what you may have thought when you walked into the door, but that was our starting point. We tried to figure out how do we do dialogue in community together this rapidly with such a short time frame. What is dialogue? Definitions are very important. We're going to ask you to hold us accountable to definitions. We're going to help us crowdsource and figure out some definitions as we go forward. But we're going to start with this as we're working here. This dialogue is a conversation in which people who have different beliefs and perspectives seek to develop mutual understanding. Next. So our process goals. What do we want to accomplish today? Acknowledgement, understanding, validation, narrative disruption, truth-telling, relationship building, trust, healing. So why dialogue? This process, the way we're going to ask you to have conversations at your table, is designed to create a safe space for dangerous conversation. We're actually asking you to transform heat, be it grief, anger, pain about racial injustice, into light, clarity, curiosity, creativity, and hope. We are affirmatively seeking to disrupt old, repetitive, toxic conversation patterns. You know what I'm talking about. When we use the example, think about Thanksgiving dinner in your family, right? You start to laugh. Who's gonna make the sweet potato pie? Are we frying the turkey or are we roasting it? When's Uncle Joe gonna storm out, right? I'm stepping on some toes right now. And you know that in your particular family, that same drama plays out the same way every year, doesn't it? That kind of sense of when we have strong feelings about something and we keep going around and around, this process is designed to change that. Next. So, disclaimer, what are we not going to do today? First of all, we are not going to atone for 400 years of horror in 4 hours. Do you hear me? That is not what's happening today. That is not what's being promised. So we can take that off the table. We will not fix or solve anything. Our goal here is not to come up with a list of 4 ideas that we want to see implemented. We will probably produce more questions and answers. And if we do this intently together, we might actually change the way we do community in Nashville. So this model comes from Public Conversations Project website. We adapted our process from a manual. All of your table hosts have been trained on that. They make this publicly available with their website so you can see it as well. Transparency is important. So this paragraph around transparency seems to be a good place for us to hang our hat. If part of the old conversation has been lack of transparency, it will be important to be very open about where the idea for the dialogue came from, how it was planned, and possibly to include the whole community in the initial event. Next. Well, I've already told you about the timeline 2 weeks ago, and you're saying, well, we haven't done that, but maybe we have. Because as I understand it, this is part 1. The mayor desires to have a city-wide dialogue with up to 100 participants in Music City Center on September 10th. The only way we can make that go and make it useful and make sure we have the right people invited and make sure we're talking about the right things is to get that information from you, the leaders in the community. So if you will think about our work together today, about preparing for September 10th and beyond, then maybe we will meet the mark very quickly. Our particular scaffold today, the first round of questions, we will probably be probing the damage. What is the pain? What is the trauma? What are the concerns? What keep you up at night as a leader of people struggling with these issues? Then, after we finish the first round of questions, we go into the break. We're going to ask you to take that bright orange piece of paper on your table and look at the questions. Start thinking about dreaming and designing. What's the destination? What's the design? Where do we want to go from here? What do we want to build? Now here's the key. Each of you may have an idea about that. You'll probably hold it to yourself because when we come back from the break, the second part, we're going to start asking specific questions around definitions, data, and duties that might take us where we need to go. So I'm going to zoom through those very quickly. Next. Next, please. Next, please. Definitions. There are a lot of terms that come when we're talking about justice. Racial justice, criminal justice, restorative justice. I could go on. This is maybe just a partial list. Part of our work here today will try to be to figure out what else do we need to add to that list next. Because when we talk about definitions, what kind of definitions? Are we talking about legal, academic, just, common usage? Or maybe what's really most important to us, the emotional, moral, ethical, theological, right? Next. Data. What do we need to know to get where you want to go, to build what you want to build, to re-envision what you need? Do we have existing data? Is it available? Is it collectible? Is it digestible? Questions we'll think about next. Then, finally, the last D for duties, getting to accountability. Who will do what, when? May not ask you what you want to have done, but we are going to ask you, what do you want to see 30 days from now, 3 months from now, next year? I'm sorry, Mayor, you didn't like that word fiscal. I didn't quite get it out. We want to ask it later. But you get where we're going. And what's fascinating about that 30-day tick mark is it will have come and gone before we can meet together on September 10th. Accountability. What's that going to look like next? And the duties. How will Metro measure progress on any of these? How will we, the people, monitor progress next? So today's process, as we are right at the 1:30 mark, you are seated at 13 tables. Each table has a table host. He or she have been trained in this process over the last 3 days, and they will move you through the questions that you have at your table. They will help enforce time limits and our communication commitments. There is also a scribe. The first round of questions, they'll be writing notes quietly in their lap. There will be strict confidentiality there. You will determine whether or not what's said in round one stays in round one. But when we get to round two and we have more of a quantitative emphasis, they'll be writing on the flip charts. May I also say that you are all scribes. Everybody has Post-it notes at your desk. Feel free to make notes as people are talking, as you're sparking new ideas, and we're going to give you an opportunity to post that around the side of the room. There will be a civic and metro leader participants. This exercise is designed for 8 people to answer the question around the table. If there are more than 8 of you, even if you stay in the time limit, your table is going to run out of time. I don't know. I didn't make the invitations. I'm just saying. You might need to move to another table where there aren't so many people if anybody is oversubscribed. And then a metro listener. Mayor did mention that we're going to try to keep an open seat closest to the inside of this circle so that we can pop in and out. And I believe that open seat is for the mayor, but also for Chief Anderson, who is present, and also for one of the Metro Human Relations Commissioners who may be present and representing our commission in that capacity. So, this is the agenda. We've done the welcome. I just finished the task launch. We're going to move into the round one narratives, break, round two, quick debrief, next steps, and evaluation. Evaluation is very important. You must complete that because we won't know how well we did, what we need to do better as we go forward. So, next, is that it? Okay, so at this point, as I move us into the work, my last job is to secure the communication agreements. You're going to have a sheet of paper on your desk that has 8 statements. This is what makes this process work. Let me go through these, listen to them carefully, and then I'm going to ask you if you think you can abide by this as we go forward. First, we will speak for ourselves and allow others to speak for themselves with no pressure to represent or explain a whole group, except for if you represent the church. You're here because you're representing that group. You know what I mean? What we aren't going to do is be representing a church and then be talking about what police are doing, right? Answer the questions from our particular or professional perspective. 2, we will not criticize the views of others or attempt to persuade them. The question answering will go around in a circle. Individual will take their allotted time and move it forward. We don't have back and forth. This is not a competitive exercise. And by speaking our truth into the center of the table and having everybody lean in and listen, well, wonderful things can happen. 3, we will listen with resilience, hanging in when something is hard to hear. You may be sitting next to somebody, maybe they have a uniform and a gun, and you weren't expecting that when you walked in here, and you're having a very hard time listening to their perspective. Or you may be sitting next to somebody with sagging pants who believe that Black Lives Matter, and you're having a hard time listening to that perspective. You get the idea that goes on. Listening with resilience means we're asking you not to check out and start doing mind chatter because you want to win the conversation. Lean in and listen. We will share and participate within the suggested time frames. This is where I promise to be the bad guy. You've got to keep the time frame. Some questions have 2 minutes, some questions have 4. Let me tell you something about this design. If we stay to the recommended time limits, every participant in this room will have 14 minutes of uninterrupted airtime in this public meeting. That is remarkable. Does that happen at a normal town hall meeting that you would see? Well, the loudmouths like me may get 30 minutes, but other people get no time. And that is why it's important to really respect the time limits because we're honoring everybody's story as it's coming forward. 5, we will not interrupt except to indicate that we cannot or did not hear. 6, this is where it's voluntary. When it's your turn to answer, you can pass or pass for now. If you pass, your table host will ask at the end of the round if you would like to speak up. If you still choose not to, that is your prerogative. That's part of the safe space. 7, we will hold in confidence what we hear in this circle. We will not confront one another about circle comments after we leave, particularly if they're sensitive. 8, we may go hard against ideas, ideologies, and institutions. If you hate the way this thing works right now, this thing, say so. What we will not do is harm with our mouths any person, any individual, present or absent, from the circle. Hard on things, but we hold to our heart with respect and communal love the individuals. That is it. Those are the rules. So at this point, and I am 5 minutes over, we're going to move you into the beginning. There is an introductory question that everybody at the circle will answer, whether you're one of the 8 participating speakers or not, timekeepers all. And it is this, and I should not freestyle, this wasn't a question, people. Okay, introduction. Only should take 30 seconds. What is your name? What organization do you represent? What did you give up to be here today? And then complete this sentence. The word I bring to this table is blank. The word I hope to take away is blank. I will give you the example and then sit down. The next voice you will hear will be your table host beginning. My name is Phyllis Hildreth. I teach conflict management. What did I give up today? Color. I gave up time in my art studio making something beautiful to be here with you today. What word do I bring? Determination. What word do I hope to take away? Amazement. Thank you. You may begin.